Hello reefers, welcome back to Dan's Reef, and today you join me for my Waterbox Frag 145.5. This is only going to be a short update because I did a little overview video not too long ago. There's not massive amounts that have changed. One big thing that has changed is the lighting. So my previous video, I did say that it would be the last time you'd see the TMC Reef photons, so they have now gone completely, and I'm now running two Radion XR15 Pros and I'm running two AI blades. They're both the Grows, not the Glows, and each of the blades is 30 inches long. And just a quick little backstory as to where these lights came from. They came from Chris, otherwise known as Hurren's Reef. Chris has been running this setup on his Red Sea Reefer 300XL for a little while. I think he had the XR15s originally, and then I think he added the blades. So I think he added one originally and he added the second one. He ran that for quite a while. As I said, he had good success with SPS growth. I think he talked about upgrading his light to something else, sort of at some point, and he's now done that. So the light he's actually upgraded to is the ATI Straton, which is an amazing light. And I was lucky enough to see his tank in his system when I went up to his to collect these lights. And his tank is just absolutely phenomenal. It's a really, really nice system, not massively overstocked with fish, and the fish he's got in there are absolutely stunning. I'll leave a link to his credentials for his Instagram below in the video, but go over, check out his tank. He's got some really nice corals. I have actually got a couple of corals in here which came from his tank. One of them is the stag. There's a stag this end that came from Chris's tank originally. So he's got some really nice bits. Really nice guy. Luckily, between Matt, Norfolk Reefer, he messaged me and said Chris was looking to, potentially be selling his lights at some point, and I just jumped on it. As I said, I've been looking to upgrade my lights for a little while, although it wasn't necessarily at the top of my list of things I wanted to add to the system. But sometimes in the hobby, when things present themselves, and if it's a good opportunity, sometimes you just got to go for it, otherwise you end up sort of regretting stuff that you could have possibly got that you didn't go for. So yeah, so it was about a week ago. I went up to Chris's to collect these lights, and it was a bit of a mission. I think it was like 3 hours there, 3 hours back, 460-mile round trip to go and get them, but it was well worth it. The TMC Reef Photon lights, the last pair came off the day before I went to collect these, so the tank basically had no lighting on it at all for sort of just over a 24-hour period, I suppose you could say. I wasn't overly concerned having no lights on for 24 hours or so. As I said, it wasn't a major concern for me. What I ended up doing when I got back is I set the Radion XR15s up, and I just sort of set them back so I didn't ramp them really, really high. I think I set the intensity to a max at 80%. And I did a 10-day acclimation, which they are technically still in that acclimation phase. I think they've got another couple of days to go. The day after that, I started looking at how to mount the AI blades on this tank. So the way that Chris had it set up on his Reefer XL 300XL is he had the XR15s in the same configuration I've got, but because their brackets were closer together on his system, he had one blade back to back. So he had one at the back of the tank, one at the front of the tank, and they were perfectly in line, all lined up nicely on his tank, and it looked absolutely phenomenal. As I said, it's a really good rig. When I came to do it on this system, I was stuck with a couple of things really. One was the lid, and I'll show you that when we take you off the tripod, but I couldn't space it the same as what Chris had it, and because of the width of this tank as well, it was limiting in just how much spread I was going to get at the edge of the tank anyway, although I was going to try it. But in the end, I ended up just spacing the XR15 brackets a little bit wider apart. And then I decided to run both the blades at the front, slightly angled, and try and keep them in line. As you can probably see on the angle from where you are. The only problem I have had really is the bracket on this side. For some reason, it doesn't want to keep the actual bracket the same height as the one on the right, which is a little bit annoying. If it was just the XR15s, you wouldn't notice it as much, but because the blades are both at the front and supposed to be in parallel in a nice straight line, obviously you can see there's a deviation between the two, and I'll show you that when I take you off and have a look at the lights. But just, yeah, overall the lights themselves, absolutely phenomenal. As I said, I was impressed when I put the XR15s on. I think the spread was really good, and because they're the pros, they're not as blue as the blues, which again is perfect for me because, as you know, the way I ran the TMC lights, I don't like running the lights at super blue. It's just not that appealing to me. Of an evening, I like it to be a little bit more on the blue hue to bring out the pop of some of the corals, but in the daytime, I like to see the corals, and most importantly for me, I like to see the fish. So that's the most important aspect for me. And I think it just gives a more clean aesthetic with that light, you know, the way the light intensity is and the spectrum. So yeah, said after setting up the XR15s, I then went about mounting the AI blades, and they went up absolutely fine, apart from the slight deviation in height difference, as I said, but that's nothing to do with the lights, that's just to do with the bracket really, which I need to look at. My long-term thinking is, and my plan is to hopefully get to bin off the brackets. I'm looking at getting an RMS rail, and I'm thinking of just actually mounting it all on the rail and suspending it from the ceiling, just so I can get all the brackets and get everything off the actual tank itself. I just think it's going to look a lot neater, and also it will help with the lid, which I will show you in a minute as well. But as I said, I put the blades on, and originally they came on at around 60%, but just like the difference in spread and spectrum from the blades was just like a completely another level. Really impressive coverage. As I said, you know, I would have been pushing the spectrum on this size tank with just the XR15s. It could have probably done with the XR30s, but with the blades, it makes such a difference. I'm quite looking forward to getting the par meter on them at some point, and we'll check what the par is, and then I can tweak any final adjustments. At the minute, I'm sort of just doing it by eye, so to speak. I'm just sort of looking at where, you know, and how much stuff is getting light. And as I said, I will be retesting the par, and we'll go from there. But in terms of the corals and the fish, everything is doing completely fine. I'm still getting growth on the SPS frags, and especially the ones I got from Ron, and the stag I got from Chris is also growing. Everything's doing well. Organ pipe coral still sulking. I'm thinking it's probably more to do with some of the vermitids on that rock. And the only other thing I've got going on is the Duncans are still sulking, and I'm not 100% sure why. There's nothing I can really tell that's off with them, and all the parameters are still doing good. NIOS dosing still doing well, the 2-part, and that's all going great. My parameters on that are stable. The uptake is starting to kick in now, so stuff is starting to deplete, and I'm having to increase what I'm dosing for the NIOS, but again, that's expected because obviously there's more corals that have been added, which obviously we want the uptake because it means we've got, or should have, technically growth going on, which is always a nice thing to have. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get you off, and I will give you a closer look at the new light setup, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Okay, so let's have a closer look. So as I said, there's nothing particularly, you know, there's nothing crazy going on. This is exactly how Chris had it set up on his system. So essentially you've just got one XR15, you've got these brackets, and I do forget where they came from. I'll try and find them and put the link down in the video if you want to look them up. But basically you get a bracket set, 2 acrylic brackets, which will give you the option of putting an AI blade on the front and 1 on the back. I believe you can get the brackets that will allow you to do 2 at the front, 2 at the back as well. So effectively, as I said, Chris had these in line together, and he had 1 at the front and 1 at the back, and it was all sort of one solid rig, I suppose. Cable management wise, I haven't done anything particularly exciting. I've just ran it back under, and it sort of tucks up going down the back of the RMS bracket, and that side's the same. But as I said, the actual spread and spectrum just from the blades alone is just absolutely incredible, and it does make a massive difference to the light spread in the tank. It's made the tank look completely different. It's like having a completely different reef, even though nothing else inside has changed. But yeah, coral wise, everything is still doing really good. You can see some growth on the SPS, so we've got growth over there. PC Rainbow, it's hard to get an angle on that, but that's also got some growth. The Stag, which came from Chris, that's also growing. Another one from Ron, that's also growing. So everything is doing really well, which is really nice. But the tank is still looking great. As I said, the way the lighting is now, it's just looking absolutely phenomenal. I think the only thing I need to really do is just get an RMS rail and get these lights suspended from the ceiling, because as I said, apart from that little notch on the top there for the stairs going up, there's not really too much to stop me from doing it really. But, and as I said, the only other problem I've had as such, not really a problem, but because the way the brackets are on this London Aquatic design lid, even if I lined the mounts within those gaps, the lid still doesn't fit. So that's why I came to the decision to just spread them further apart and end up running the two blades at the front. But the problem is, because the lid doesn't sit flush on those brackets, it now has got a slight gap at the back. So it does taper back down to the front, which is fine, but obviously long term, any sort of jumpy fish I might be adding is probably not going to be ideal. So again, that's just another reason to get these mounted up on the ceiling on one big rig. But overall, as you can see, it's a really nice setup. As I said, the brackets are really nice. As I said, and there's probably a million ways you can run the cables back from the blades through there, but as I said, at the minute I've still been messing around, and I do need to try and get that lined up a bit, because that is really annoying. I'm not really like that OCD about stuff, but it would be nice if they were straight. So I'm going to try and do that before I mount them on the ceiling. But yeah, everything's doing well. Algae on the rock, still got bits and pieces. I think it is sort of, I wouldn't say it's going away completely, but it's not quite as fuzzy as what it was. So as I said, this rock has not been in that long, so I think it's going to need a little while longer just to get itself into a good place really. But it's nice to see some growth on a lot of the stuff now, which is very cool. There you go, guys. That's the overview of the current new light rig that we've got. I'm absolutely very lucky. I'm really grateful to Chris for allowing me to purchase his old setup, and he'd done me an absolute deal on the actual lights themselves. So it was just really kind of him. As I said, go over and have a look at his tank on Instagram, because he is running an ATI Stratton. And if you know, you know, but they are amazing lights, and I look forward to seeing the difference and positive impact that has on his tank. And obviously I'm hoping these lights are going to have a much needed positive impact on my system. So yeah, just really thank you to Chris, and thank you to you guys for tuning in and watching. And the only other thing I want to mention, just a couple of things quickly, because I know time is precious, but this month on the 21st here in the UK, we've got the Aqua 2025, which is just going off the back of the show last year. It's sort of near Coventry. Loads of different brands and companies going to be there. I'm hoping to see a lot of you guys there. If you are going and you see me around, you probably won't miss me, because I'm not that hard to miss. But if you do see me at the show, come and say hello, and yeah, we'll have a chat. But I'm hoping to see a few of you there, and that'll be good. It'll be good to see a lot of you there. And I said it. Hopefully, it'll be a really, really good day. The last year's show was phenomenal. Bearing in mind it was the first one. I think this year there's a lot more companies involved in it, so I think it's going to be quite good. There's more coral vendors, a lot more sort of different aspects within the hobby. They've got more people talking this year as well, so I think it's going to be really, really good. And the only thing to note, if you hadn't noticed, I have actually got a microphone now for these recordings, so I'm hoping the audio would have been slightly better than what it has been up until now. But let me know in the comments if you think the audio has been improved, and I'll continue to make adjustments to that as we go forward. But thank you all for coming back and watching, and as I said, yeah, looking forward to Aqua. I'll do an update after Aqua, and I'll just update you on the tank towards the end of the month, and I'll go over if I ended up getting anything from the show, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, until next time, happy reefing, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks a lot.